Okay, everyone, we're back and we're going to talk about some more KPIs. So this one, we're going to look at some time series KPIs. We're building off some of the ones that we did last time. That video is in the description below, and maybe just by way of quick recap, our KPIs looked something like this. So a spark line comparing our current year, which is the spark line, to the previous year, which is the area chart, and then this little text KPI. I'm not going to walk through everything that we did in this last video in this one, so I might just refer back to it once or twice. So feel free to check that one out if you want to start there. But the ones that we're going to look at today look something like this. So we've got 3 KPIs that we're building. Here is our previous year versus current year highlighted. We've got previous year versus current year to date. The big blue bars are our current year. The lighter ones are our previous year. And then we've got, again, a previous versus current, but this time using like a reference line, something like that. So that's where we're going. Looking forward to it. This workbook is going to be in the description below as well if you want to download that and follow along. So let's see where we're going to start. All of them use this little text KPI. And there are a couple of tricks to getting like the colors to change, to getting the arrows to go up or down. But we did cover that in the previous video. The most important things to know basically is that we're going to pull our 2024 sales or our current year sales, but because Superstore hasn't been updated to 2025 just yet, I've got 2024 sales, and so that's giving me our year-to-date sales. And with some clever formatting, we've got a nice little text KPI that can sit, in this case, in quite a big square, but you could kind of squeeze it if you wanted to. So maybe let's just go left to right. So let's do our previous year versus our current year. Okay, so there's nothing magic going on here in this chart. There's just 1 or 2 clever calcs. The first thing is that we are going to return our previous year versus current year sales. So let me duplicate this so that I can play around with it and not break too much stuff. So in order to get my previous year versus current year sales, I've actually created a new calculation. The reason why I created a new calc is because if you were to just say something like, I'm going to put my month of order date over here. We're going to put sales. Where are all my sales? A little bit higher. We're going to put sales on rows. Let's make those bars. And then we filter this. You're going to have to choose a relative date, and basically you're going to want to filter down to something that says, well, the whole of this year plus the whole of last year. And it just, to me, it just seemed like it was an unnecessary complication. So I thought, hey, let's just create our own little calculated field called previous year and current year sales, and it looks something like this. Now you're welcome to pause the video and break this down in some more detail, but all the comments over here are what you would do if you have data that is up to date. So like I said, my previous year needs to be 2023, my current year is 2024. You would just change it to today minus 1 and today, and then you're good to go. By dragging this onto rows, I have something that looks like this, which is cool. I'm going to hide my null indicator, and really here it's formatting. So if I quickly flick back to this chart, you'll notice I've got my discrete months because I want a little bit of space in between the bars. But on, where's the new one? Sheet 11. On this one, you see I don't have any space between the bars. So if you want to get some space, change your continuous date field to discrete. Then we land up with this issue, right? Where it's still giving me a label for each of the months that I don't have sales for. So what I did is I created a current year sales filter, which looks something like this. So it's very similar to what we did before. It's just taking out the, if it meets our date criteria, then show me the sales. So we've just said, don't worry about the sales, just give me a little true and false. And when we drop our true and false onto filters and we say, cool, just only return the information for the previous year sales and the current year sales, we click OK. So sorry, I know I'm racing through those calcs, but you can pause the video and take a look at those in some more details. And if you've got some questions, pop them down below. Now, at this point, it's just formatting, right? So what I've done over here is I've taken away all the grid lines, all the axes, all the axis marks, the ticks, things like that. So maybe just to do that quickly, and we'll do it for this one and not for the others, we do something like this. I'd go through here. Now you always have to kind of just play around and see what's happening with these. So I can see I've still got row grid lines. That looks pretty good. Should we do a little safety flick through everything and see? Yeah, that seems fine. If I pick up any lines at a later stage, we can work it out. Now, the last thing in this chart was that we wanted to highlight the current year versus the previous year so that you've got that nice visual comparison. So it's relatively easy. What we would do is we would say, I'm sure I've got this somewhere here, called this year. And again, it's a simple true and false, and it looks like this. To be fair, you could just delete this part that I've just highlighted here. You're probably safe to say, hey, does my year of my date field equal today? But because I know that we have information in 2024 that goes all the way up to December, and I'm acting like 2024 is my current year, I needed to make sure that we're not bringing in any future data into this current iteration. So I added in this little date part to make sure, hey, only give me data from the 8th of April and before. So if that's relevant to you, you can add it in or not. But when you drop this onto color, what's super nice is you get this little breakdown. Maybe just a note here. There is a very useful website called Cooler. I think it's Coolers. And why it's so nice is because you can create color gradients and color palettes. So I'll link that in the description below and you can check it out. So like in this case, it looks like we've got one very strong color and then it looks like I've dialed down the opacity, but we haven't really. It's just two colors of different hues in the same palette. So it ends up looking relatively nice. So that's how we do our first KPI. To put into a dashboard would look something like this, which I think is pretty cool. Okay, let's do this one. So here we're still looking at a similar scope of information. It's still 2024 versus 2023. However, we're presenting this information slightly differently. So in this one, we had the context of the whole previous year. But in this one, we're just saying, hey, how do our current months for this year compare to the same months in the previous year? And that's all the information that we want. So again, let me duplicate it so I can play around with it. So you'll notice we've got sales 2024 and sales 2023. They look something like this. Anytime you're trying to drag, get the information for any measure in Tableau, you're going to do something like, hey, if my dimension equals X, show me my measure, and then you'll pull it out. So in our case, if the year of order day is 2024, the date part is less than the date part of today, then show me my sales. And that's 2024, and you basically just duplicate it and change 2024 to 2023 to get the year before. Okay, so then to build something like this, we would essentially draw one little chart, so 2023, 2024, and then what did we have? Our discrete months of order date. Let's do this. Okay, very nice. Then we'll change this to bars, right click on the pill on the right and make it dual axis. Okay, now again, this is formatting. So in our one here, we've got a very simple axis on this side, a very simple axis on this side. So let's go clean this up a little bit. We've got to make sure the axes are synchronized because they're sharing a value, right? These are in dollars, so we've got to make sure they're comparable. Let's uncheck show header, uncheck show header. I don't need those. Let's get rid of all these beautiful lines that are everywhere. It'd be so nice if you could just turn them off. Just turn off all lines. Axis ticks, what are these? Row grid lines. Row zero lines, I don't need. Okay, that looks fine. Oh wait, we did have a little header here. So that's this one, 2023 was my first one. So let's show that header. Okay, and now there are two other little bits of formatting. One is formatting the axis, one is formatting the bars. I think formatting the bars is the easiest, to be honest. So what I'm gonna do is hold down Command, well, I'm on a Mac, Control if you're on a Windows, and drop your measure names onto size. That way they're differentiating on the basis of size. So here I can see my sales 2023 is the small one, 2024 is the big one. So here 2024 is the small one, 2023 is the big one. But the difference is that we've played around with the actual scope of the measure values. So let's go back and do that a little bit here. Let's double click here. We don't need the largest to be so large. Something like this. Okay. And then I want to move my 2024. Oh, wait. These need to be the other way around. Hey, let's just click reverse and do it like that. Yeah. Okay, fine. What else do we need to do? My bars were even smaller there on the other one. So I guess one tip or one recommendation when you're building these KPIs is sometimes your formatting is going to be dictated by actually applying it to the dashboard. So once you've dragged these KPIs into the dashboard, you might need to come back, tweak the size of the bars, the difference between the 2023 sales and 2024 for size, etc., etc. So that's just one little disclaimer, as you can't necessarily edit it all perfectly here. So then the next thing is, let's do this axis. So we're going to format this. We're going to go to our dates and we're going to say, hey, just give me the first letter. But then for the font, I'm also going to make the font really small. I definitely chose a blue, but I think it was just like this. So just demure, throw it off on the side. And then for this one, I'm going to edit the axis. I don't need sales 2023. I don't think our people really need to know that, but I am going to, so here's something. I think I made this font even smaller. It's 7. Whoa. Okay, so let's format this, make our font 7, and then, nice. Now we're going to do the same for this one. So let's format this. Let's go to the pane. Again, we'll make that 7, bold and blue. Didn't work. Oh, axis. It's because I'm not editing the axis. 7, bold and blue. Okay, nice. Very small. And then what if we do the last one that I want to show you is this little months filter. So this is just making sure that I don't want to see all these extra months that are coming out because, that technically that's part of the year of today, which I don't want. So I want to make sure that the date part month is less than or equal to today. But again, just saving me from any future information. I don't want to have information for the rest of April. I know it's in my data set. So I just added my little date part safety net. And then we can just say, hey, make sure this is true. And that's very nice and small. Let's remove the field name for columns. And ultimately, we'd just hide this title. So you've got a beautiful blank KPI. And I think that's really effective. When you go back to the dashboard and you take a look at that, I mean, what's so nice about this is it's useful. You've got a quick comparison between my current year and my previous year. Okay, maybe we could tweak the colors a little bit so that they're easier to understand if you want. But I think it's small. You could squeeze this into a very limited amount of space, which I think is a big win if you're trying to get a lot of these in, which is great. Okay, final one looks like this. So here we basically have the same architecture of the chart type. So we've got a dual axis chart. The only difference is that in our bar and bar chart, both of the mark types are bar, whereas for this one mark type is bar and the other is actually a Gantt bar. Now you could say, but aren't these just reference lines? Yes, they are basically reference lines. But if I drag reference lines in here, let me do it. Let me show you why this looks pretty average. The reference lines end up being very domineering. They're really long. They are pretty difficult to format in terms of their actual, their size or their width. So what we're doing here is we're actually just working with these Gantt bars because they allow us a lot more flexibility. So that's not saying reference lines are never useful, but they are sometimes useful. Maybe it's worth saying at this point as well that if you want to apply things like KPIs into your dashboards, or you want help getting your dashboards to look really nice, or you're wanting to focus on a problem, we have office hours that you can book, and you can book by the hour, and we really try and make sure we're available every day. So if you've got something that you want to try and sort out soon, let us know. We'd love to help. So how else are we going to change this? So maybe let's build this one again, and we'll walk through it. Okay, so again, we've got our little month filter here, month of order date. We've got our sales 2023, we've got our sales 2024. Let's just change them both to bars for the moment and make it dual axis. Okay, then let's synchronize, and let's hide this, hide that axis, uncheck show header. So we're kind of where we were before, but here's where we're going to change this bar to a Gantt bar. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Now let's compare this to what we have over here, because you'll see all we really have is a true and false, which is our exceeded the previous year. So if it falls below the Gantt, below the little target, then we want it to be one color. If it's exceeded, let's make it another color. It's actually pretty easy to do that. All it takes is one little calc saying, hey, my sales 2023 is greater than my sales 2024. And if I drop that onto my bars color like this, boom, it looks like that. So let's change, let's change these colors. So false and true. Exceeded my previous year sales. Hang on, I've done something wrong here. But what is it? Because this one is exceeded. Sales 2020. Oh, this is sales 2023. This is sales 2024. Ah, that's a silly mistake. Okay, let's just swap them around. So I just clicked and dragged. Okay. And okay, now we've just got to do some quick changes. So let's swap the bar types. Boom, boom. Oh, I didn't even need to swap them around. I just needed to change these types there. And then let's exceed our previous year's sales on the bars. Okay. All is not lost. Order is restored. That looks fine. Again, we can change those colors if we wanted to, but fits my palette so nicely. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to make the bars a little bit smaller, I think. Yeah, something like this. And then for the Gantt, okay, so here's something interesting. You could work with the actual size of the Gantt bars, basically to say, if they've been exceeded, you could change the actual bar to a certain color. I didn't really do that. I just said, hey, let's make it orange, so it kind of stands out. You can see what's going on, but it's up to you, isn't it? It's up to you. So here I'm going to clean this out. Let's see exactly what we did on the side. Oh yeah, just very, very clean. So let's get rid of these headers for the axis. Again, let's get rid of some of these bars. And here we go. Column zeros, we don't need. Axis ticks, we don't need. And then let's go back here. Column dividers, row dividers. There is a row zero line. I can see it. There we go. That looks much better. Okay, and then we hide our null indicator. Maybe the last thing is let's put our months filter on here again, because technically there are a whole bunch of months that we can't see because we hid the header. So let's put our months filter here and let's say true, just to make sure it's nice and clean. There you go. So now we don't have any nulls in the color legend, which is great. So finally, if you pull that in, it looks something like this. Again, I think the big win with these time series comparisons is that you actually don't need a huge chart to compare the current year to the previous year. You can often do that for a particular measure using a KPI. And the benefit is saving space. And from here, how would we work with interaction? Well, I think what I would do in a dashboard like this is I would use these to give snapshots of our change over time. But then really we're trying to say, now that you have that context, how do we interpret the rest of the information in the dashboard? So this part of the dashboard would be the information that I'm trying to get across, the story that I'm trying to tell. These would be things that are useful context, things that we're monitoring, but they sort of add to the story. They're not the whole story necessarily. So I hope that's helpful. If you've got any questions, throw it in the chat, let me know, and we'll be happy to get back to you as soon as possible. If you need any help with a Tableau problem, again, feel free to reach out. We're here to help. Thanks for joining, and we'll make some more KPIs sometime soon.